everybody. It is time once again for more Downforce Grand Prix World Series action from the Retro Racing Managers League. And we are here in round 12 on Mount Fuji, underneath that gorgeous skyline on the fantastic Grand Prix circuit. Last used for Formula One in 2008, but what an absolutely brilliant return it is for Grand Prix racing cars. Jake Sanson here to call the action, and if you don't know what this is all about, well, this is the Minecraft of motorsport, as it has been affectionately called, and it is a Grand Prix World Series racing league for managers, not sim racers. So the teams are managed by real people who have chosen an ex-Formula One team from the past that has never won a Grand Prix. They are not allowed to pick a manufacturer, so no BMW, no Honda, no Toyota. They are allowed to run ex-Formula One drivers that didn't win a Grand Prix, and that is race or test drivers. They can have any engine supplier they like, so long as they are not currently racing in Formula One. So no Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, or, of course, Renault. And Ferrari, of course, I should have said if I didn't already. And obviously, they are allowed any tyre company they choose. They're given a strict budget. They have to keep to that budget. And obviously, they will get prize money based on their results and opportunities to improve their cars over the season. If there are teams lagging behind, they get a balance of performance budget at 2 separate points in the season. And it has given us some absolute thrillers of some races over the course of the last 11 meetings. Earlier on today, we had the Grand Prix of Malaysia, the gorgeous Shah Alam circuit in Selangor, and here is the driver standings after that event. Jean-Eric Verne leads the way, but Kamui Kobayashi took a big dent out of his points tally by finishing in 4th place. Brendan Hartley climbs the table to 3rd, overtaking the likes of Marc Genet and Andre Lotterer, who are now tied for points. Degrassi and Glock remain unchanged. Brendan Hartley has crept up into 8th position now. Apparently, he's there twice. I do apologise for that. De La Rosa and Stoffel Van Dorn are climbing the table, though, and that is for certain. So it'll be fascinating to see how they get on as they continue to climb the ladder. Nico Hulkenberg is doing a fair job where he is. De Resta is in 12th place. Buemi is still in the points table, despite not being on the grid any longer. Bourdais going well. Alguersuari scoring big, and Alexander Rossi climbing the table. Anthony Davidson is now level with the departed Nick Heidfeld. Scott Dixon is 19th in the standings, and Bruno Senna is there in 20th place. Then we have Robin Freins, who got a 5th place finish on his debut earlier today in Malaysia, now tying with Susie Wolff and Marcus Ericsson. Gabriele Tarquini has scored points. Taki Inui now has 6 points on the board, having scored his first point since the second round of the championship earlier today. James Courtney has a few points, as does Luciano Berti, and then Pedro Diniz and Pascal Wehrlein have a point, as does Takuma Sato, who scored a point for getting pole position in Malaysia. But guess what? He has done it again after qualifying here today on home soil. He bags the pole position. People power pushing him forward. BAR lead the team standings. They didn't score in Malaysia, so Arrows and Manor have caught up slightly. Super Aguri ahead of Minardi and AGS, and then it is the Prost team working their way forward. They've actually overtaken Minardi this time around. Simtech are still there in 8th place, although they are climbing the points tally, and those 8 teams at the top end of the field only separated by 89 points, so it's still anybody's title. Onyx, Lola, BMS Italia, and then 40 who have overtaken Midland. An absolutely fascinating racing prospect, and great to see that everybody is ready for action here at Fuji in Japan. The long straight causing quite a few interesting results over the course of qualifying. Not everybody is where they expected to be, but it's definitely given us plenty of entertainment and drama on the horizon. So let's go down to the green room and talk with a few of our team managers before we go racing. Topher Smith of Super Aguri. Your new man, Robin Freins, appears to have taken the team leader-elect position within the squad. He put on a good show last time out, having been on the front row and then dropping to the back of the grid, but fought his way back to 5th place. Is Timo Glock slightly worried about his presence now?
Timo Glock is not at all worried. He spoke to me after the race and he said that it was just one of those days where just wasn't on the pace. He's struggling with the setup of the car. And he's had a bit of a poor qualifying today, but he feels confident that he can move forward through the field. He's looking forward to having a good one today.
Well, obviously, this is the home race for the team, so I'm guessing you guys are gunning for the podium. With Robin, there's a good chance he's up there in the top 6. But this is going to be a race of attrition again. Do you think you guys have the staying power to hold it to the end?
We'll just have to wait and see on that one.
Well, short and sweet. We like the answer. Fantastic stuff. Let's have a word with the team boss of Simtek, Scott Woodwis. Scott, things went very well for the team last time. They were running in second and third place up until the point when, unfortunately, Scott Dixon, who drove beautifully in Malaysia, ended up retiring. But a second place finish for Stoffel van Dorn, his first of the season. We saw Prost win last time out, and it took them 11 races. Will it take you 12 to get the job done today?
I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, it was a mixture of fortunes. On the one hand, it was disappointing that Dixon had the retirement when he did, but I think the solace we could take from that is that the further work we did on reliability got him as long in the race as he did, and we weren't retiring in the first third or the first half of the race, which is good. Stoffel's car getting to the end was decent. I think the strategy played out a little bit better. Maybe things could have been more ideal on the strategy, and we could have maybe got a little bit closer to the Prost, but I have to applaud Prost for putting on a great strategy. Here at Fuji, I mean, we've got one of the best engines. We've got one of the highest amounts of horsepower on the grid. So if we can put that to good use and try and power past some of the drivers on the straights in the early laps, that'll be helpful. Bit disappointed and mystified why we're back in 12th and 15th, but the race is a long one, and we know we're good off the starts usually and pick up a few places. So all we can do is hope for the best, hope for the strategy works out, and fingers crossed we can get both cars home and hopefully with some decent points again on the board going into the last three races.
Fantastic. Hopefully it's a good one for Simtek. Good luck with it. And finally, let's have a word with Tom Cairns, the team boss of the now victorious Prost Grand Prix team. That must sound pretty good after winning in Shah Alam. How do you think it's going to fare with the cars looking very strong in second and third on the grid again here in Fuji?
I feel that the speed of the Prost cars has shown in qualifying that we definitely have a competitive package. We just need to make sure that both cars get to the end. And it was a shame that we didn't get the 1-2 that we wanted. It was very much deserved that we of getting that 1-2, but the reality was that we didn't get it. And if we are going to be fighting for this constructors cycle, we need to get both cars to the end and scoring great points. I mean, we've only got 4 races left now, and these are one of the circuits that we need to most definitely do well in, and to catch the likes of BAR, Arrows, Manor, and all that. But we take things one race at a time. There's a lot to play for, and a lot of stakes still. And we just got to make sure we do the best we can and do as good of a start as we did in Malaysia.
So you mentioned that there's 4 races to go, and obviously pretty much any team in the top 8 still has a mathematical chance to win this title. Do you think that this title is still wide open, or is this just a case of the likes of BAR, Arrows and Manor just ticking off races and hoping for the best? Do you think it's an open competition still?
I do feel it is an open competition because we've seen in races whether they're doing well or whether they're falling by the wayside. I mean, you look at my team, we've had races where we've been robbed of great results. I mean, we've had results in Kyalami. I mean, Alguersuari and De La Rosa would have got points in Kyalami. Pedro De La Rosa most definitely have got points in Marrakesh, and they most definitely have got points in pretty much every race, if I'm honest with you, Jake, that they've been robbed of before retiring. And that's something we need to look up on for next season, because we need to try and improve the reliability and make the cars as quick as possible, so that make sure we are still ahead of the pack. But we need to find new ways to make the cars better, more reliable, and actually challenging at the front more and more often. And that's what we lacked in the first few races. We lacked a lot of qualifying pace in the first few races in comparison to other teams, because we took the approach of making sure that the cars were reliable as possible. And it turned out to be perhaps the wrong decision. We should have taken the risk more of putting more budget on the power to make the car as quick as possible, like with the BARs and the Arrows cars have.
Well,
and go on. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it is interesting because obviously we're looking at how to make the championship a little bit more aggressive for season 2. And I guess, some of the points you raise are good ones in how we make it a little bit more even and make it an even more entertaining concept for the second season.
Yeah, well, I'm very sure for the fans watching, it's great for them to be watching stuff, and sometimes they spot things that they wouldn't have expected, and that's great for the series because it's all part of the entertainment. But sometimes it gets to a point when you see mechanical failures happening so and so often at almost every race, the unpredictability begins to drop away, and the unpredictability becomes too predictable then. which is why the teams, like myself as a team manager, I want to make sure that both of my cars get to the end. Having said that, we want to make sure the cars are consistent as well as reliable at the same time. And that's the whole point of the sport, is managing that. But sometimes when you see on numerous occasions that you put a lot of your budget in towards reliability and not getting the results that you want, despite the efforts that you put in to get the best reliability possible. Because I'm very sure that Scott Woodwist for the Suntech team, he's putting a lot of money towards the reliability throughout the season. And it's clearly frustrated him in terms of the results that he's been getting for his team as well as mine. And that's something we want to look upon for the next season in terms of how do we go about choosing budget for points. Do we change the driver lineup? I mean, I've got no plans to change the driver lineup. But we want to make sure that the car is as good as it can be. And that's our main aim for this event. And it's shown so far in Fuji. Whether we'll get to the end of the race or not remains to be seen.
Okay, well, hopefully it should be a good one for everybody here in Fuji. Unpredictability is definitely expected, but let's see what happens. It's going to be an absolute thriller of a race once again as we take to Mount Fuji and this circuit, which has not hosted a Grand Prix since 2008. We thought it was appropriate, considering how well he had gone over the course of the weekend, to hand over to the man himself, Takuma Sato, on a lap of this circuit. And it's down that long straight where you're going to get right up to the top end of what the car is capable of in terms of top speed. And then the big stop for the first corner. Expect a little bit of tension and drama here on the first lap at least. And it's a good overtaking spot as well. So we should see quite a lot of drama in that first few corners. Then up through this fast sweeping section of the course into turn 3. A very fast left-hand sweeper. Expect a few drivers to really push it on that spot. You've got to go very deep into the corner before you hit the inside apex for that long flowing right-hander. Then a heavy braking point into the next square left. Then you're back on the power as it opens out on the exit. Then you're heading down through this right-hand flick, down the crest, and you keep it to the right-hand side. Now tuck over to the left because you've got a tight chicane coming up. It's a big stop again. Right, left, and this is where we've seen a few incidents and dramas over the years. Remember how Massa and Hamilton came together in 2008. Then you're into the right-hander, over the curbs, and you're back into this long flowing section where Sebastian Vettel crashed into the back of Mark Webber in the safety car period of 2007. And as they come through, it's going to be a very interesting end to the lap here. A big stop into a very tight square right-hander, and then you're back onto that home straight once again. And pole position this time for Takuma Sato for the second race in a row. The Onyx is definitely a very quick car in his hands. Bourdais not able to get the same amount of speed out of it yet, but it definitely gives us a great sign of what's to come. Can Takuma Sato get a home race victory? Well, we're about to find out because it is now time to go racing. The starting grid for the Japanese Grand Prix of Fuji. Takuma Sato in pole position, just a whisker in front of Pedro Della Rosa and Jaime Alguersuari in the Prosts. Jean-Eric Verne going well in the BAR for fourth on the grid. Lucas Di Grassi in P5 and Robin Fries puts the Super Aguri in P6. Nico Hulkenberg is the leading arrows in P7 with Hartley in 8th for Mana, Di Resta 9th for Lola and Kamui Kobayashi way back in 10th. Sebastian Bourdais and Scott Dixon share the 6th row of the grid with Pascal Wehrlein 13th in front of an improving Andre Lotterer. Stoffel Van Dorn disappointed with P15 alongside an even more disappointed Timo Glock, with Alex Rossi and James Courtney going well on row 9, Mark Chenet alongside Marcus Ericsson for the second race in a row, Gabriele Tarquini alongside Anthony Davidson, Taki Inui's best qualifying of the year at 23rd ahead of Pedro Diniz, and Jean-Denis Delatraz out-qualifies Susie Wolff for the very first time. In fact, that's the first time all year where he's out-qualified anybody. So it is time to go racing here at Fuji, and boy are we in for an absolutely thrilling race encounter as the competitors are ready for battle. Battle lines are drawn, and it's Takuma Sato in pole position from Pedro Della Rosa in second, Alguersuari and Verne on the second row, from Degrassi, Friens, Hulkenberg, Hartley, De Resta, Kobayashi. Let's see how the race goes. It's the Japanese Grand Prix, and it's a long run to that first corner, so it could be a lot of changes before we get there. Let's race at Fuji. A good initial start, but Alguersuari's got an even better one. In fact, he's been nudged. Another slow start for Takuma Sato yet again, and this time Della Rosa and Alguersuari have jumped him nice and early. A big lunge further back. There's a little bit of drama as the cars are trying to come up to the first corner. They're knitting their way through. There's definitely some contact further back, and we've got a couple of cars with damage. See if we can have a look at who it is, but certainly a few cars struggling to get through those first few corners without scrapes. And it's the Lola of Susie Wolf. Susie Wolf's got damage. So Susie Wolf in the Lola has got damage at the back of the field. The front nose has already been damaged. You may have seen a slight update to the graphics for this particular race, and we'll colour code each of the sectors so you can see when they've come through each individual sector on the circuit. Sector 1 is in red, Sector 2 is in blue, and the finish line is green. So Della Rosa out in front as Takuma Sato makes a big lunge for the inside of Alguersuari, and he's not going to get there, and Verne is battling with Hulkenberg. And there's a big stop for the remainder of the field as they all try and squabble their way through. Pascal Wehrlein in trouble, and he's lost out to one of the Simtex. I think that's Van Dorn who's got through. So Van Dorn has made a big leap forward, and Pascal Wehrlein down to 15th place as a result. So Della Rosa and Alguersuari out in front, but Takuma Sato, another poor start, but he has managed to get himself into third position this time. He hasn't lost quite as much ground as he did before. So the second slow start in a row for Takuma Sato, but now we're on that long straight. And this is where we could see quite a lot of overtaking moves, some good slipstreaming, and obviously the cars will be pushing for the absolute limit as they come through and across the line. Pedro Della Rosa, slightly quicker is Alguersuari at the end of the first lap, but he is now chasing down the Prost as they come into that first corner. And Alguersuari is right there trying to make his move. Not easy through this first quarter or so, and Jean-Eric Verne nearly loses the BAR through turn 1. And this is a man whose championship is his to lose, essentially. He's got the lead of the title race, but he's got pressure from drivers behind, particularly that of Nico Hulkenberg, who'll be wanting to get in there and mix it up. Susie Wolf into the pits with a broken front nose, but everybody else has got through without too much damage. And Takuma Sato is keeping himself in the hunt with the Prosts. He does not want to lose ground on home soil. The Japanese flags are going bonkers around the circuit in the stands as Takuma Sato has pulled a crowd, and he is there in third position chasing down the Prosts. Jean-Eric Verne in fourth place in the BAR. Is he about to lose a place? No, he hangs on to the position in front of Hulkenberg. Degrassi is there in position once again, but Verne is having to fend off from Hulkenberg, I feel. He's really struggling to keep it together, but look at Takuma Sato. He's all over the back of Jaime Alguersuari as Kamui Kobayashi, fellow countryman, is right up there in 7th place trying to chase down Lucas Degrassi, but Verne is causing a bit of a roadblock at the moment. We'll have a look at the fuel loads very shortly, and that will give us some indication as to who's doing what out there. And Takuma Sato making the bid for 2nd place. Sato has got Alguersuari down the straight, and they're going to be side by side at the line. Sato gets the new fastest lap. 1,000th of a second between them as they came across the line. And Takuma Sato puts the Onyx into 2nd place, much to the roar of the crowd. So Takuma Sato splits the Prosts. He really does want to perform here on home soil, and he has done an absolutely stellar job. Now, he's got an 18-lap fuel load on board, and he sets an absolutely identical first sector to what he did previous time around. Della Rosa's going further into the race. I think they're trying to do a one-stop strategy at Prost with both cars. But Takuma Sato's got other ideas. He's going for a 2-stopper. So Prost just trying to consolidate. Verne is on a 2-stop as well, as is Hulkenberg. Degrassi likewise. Friens, Kobayashi and De Resta. Scott Dixon is in that bracket as well. So is Sebastian Bourdais. Bourdais going to try a big lunge on the inside of Dixon. That's not going to work. Brendan Hartley's going for a one-stop strategy. Van Dorn is on a 2, Glock is on a 1, Wehrlein is on a 2, then Lotterer, Rossi and Courtney all on 2-stoppers, as is Tarquini and Mark Chenet, Taki Inui, Anthony Davidson as well. Pedro Diniz is going 1-stop, Ericsson's going 2, while Delatraz is on a 1-stopper, and Susie Wolf, despite her problems, is on a 2-stop strategy. So that gives you an indication as to where we're at. But Takuma Sato has got the fans going. Sato's going for the lead. Down the straight, he's in the slipstream. And Takuma Sato gets another new fastest lap, but he's trying to take on Pedro Della Rosa. Can Sato, in his second ever race in the Grand Prix World Series, make his bid for the lead? Yes, he can, and he gets there as Jean-Eric Verne behind them sets an even faster lap. And here comes Degrassi. He makes the move into the first corner and gets past Robin Freins. Well, everybody was keen to see what Fuji would do in terms of the slipstream and in terms of the overtaking opportunities, and it's definitely given us that. But on a one-stop strategy, the Prosts are sluggish, and Takuma Sato on a two-stopper is looking to make this race his own. So, the Onyx is out in front, and I'm fairly sure that is the first time all season, other than the pole position last time out that lasted about 4 seconds, if that the Onyx team have led a race this year. Takuma Sato is their golden boy. And Robin Freins has a look at Degrassi. Can't get through. Paul di Resta in the Lola, still running well in 8th place. As Pascal Wehrlein makes the move on Brendan Hartley for 13th as well, so he's made another overtaking move as they all come through at the end of the second sector. But this is a proper motor race now. The Prosts are quick, but they are heavy. And so Sato on a lighter fuel load, a two-stop strategy, compared to the Prosts that are on a one-stop, are deciding. They've obviously decided to play it cautious because they've got a fast car in a straight line. But will that work as a strategy? Only time will tell as Marc Genet comes down the home straight in the Minardi. Everybody's still running as we complete lap 4. And Sato is into the 5th lap, but he leads the way. The fastest lap of the race so far from Jean-Eric Verne in the BAR. But the championship leader still has a lot of time to come in this race. And there is Susie Wolf, who is right down the order at the moment. Still trying to make her impressions on this race. But the colour coding of the graphics and the time splits definitely shows you whereabouts on the circuit each of the cars are. The red indicates that they have completed Sector 1. The blue indicates they've completed Sector 2, and the green indicates that that's their time as they come across the line. So Takuma Sato is in the second sector, and he comes through once again. A nice bit of driving so far as Alex Rossi gets on the inside of one of the Manners. That's Brendan Hartley. Hartley's struggling at the moment as Rossi is trying to close up and make a move. Meanwhile, Jaime Alguersuari in a heavy car has got Jean-Eric Verne to deal with. And Verne, the fastest car on the track in terms of fastest laps, is now in the slipstream of Jaime Alguersuari. And surely in the slipstream, the BAR Playlife engine should be powerful enough to keep up with the Mugen. So down they come to the home straight once again. And Sato has gone through. 2.3 seconds clear of these guys as they battle for position. But Jean-Eric Verne still feels that he's got a chance of a podium here in this one. James Courtney's going down the straight, battling it out with one of the Super Aguris. That is Timo Glock. So James Courtney taking on Timo Glock, who's struggling. I wonder if they've given him Nick Heidfeld's old car and given Robin Freins the good one. Because at the moment, it's definitely turning into a very strange race for them. It was a bit like this last time out as well. Glock is now suffering the same fate that Heidfeld used to suffer. Meanwhile, though, Takuma Sato is stretching his legs out front, and he's pulled out a 2.4 second gap over the rest of the field at the moment. So a very exciting run. Absolutely terrific battle so far. But Takuma Sato is trying to stretch out a gap. He's on lap 6 at this moment. And Pedro Della Rosa into the third and final sector of the lap is just smooth and solid in second place. But there is great racing everywhere at the moment. Couple of drivers going for some big bold overtakes. Davidson struggling at the first part of the race, but he did manage to fight his way back into a very solid 6th position last time out. A very good performance indeed for the Minardi driver at Shah Alam. Can he do another point scoring job in Fuji? The cars are still going to be quite vulnerable after their run in Malaysia. We only had 11 cars finished there, and this is a power circuit, so anybody that's struggling on an old engine is going to find it quite tricky. Verne is making the move. Verne is into 3rd position in the BAR. Verne has gone through into 3rd past Alguersuari. So Jean-Eric Verne gets into P3. So the 1-2 for Prost is going to be harder to come by this time than it would have been last time out at Shah Alam. But the race is absolutely palpable right now. Sato, Della Rosa, Verne, Alguersuari, Hulkenberg, Degrassi, Freins, Di Resta, Kobayashi and Dixon in the top 10. Sebastian Bourdais 11th from Stoffel Van Dorn. And then it is Pascal Wehrlein from Rossi and Hartley. And then it's 16th place, we got James Courtney, then Glock, Lotterer, Tarquini, Janae, Inui, Davidson, Ericsson, Diniz, Delatraz and Wolf. And that is the order. So far, not a single retirement. And that is the cue for somebody to go off the circuit, because as soon as I say it, somebody usually retires. But at the moment, it is Takuma Sato leading the way from Della Rosa, Verne and Alguersuari. Then Nico Hulkenberg in 5th place. A good start for the Arrows driver to keep himself in the mix. And now he's getting underneath Alguersuari's Prost. Jean-Eric Verne has his sights firmly set on Pedro Della Rosa. Again, the Prost is on a heavy fuel load, but they're only going to do a one stop. So over the course of an entire race, the Prost team may have called this right. We'll have to see. For the moment, though, Jean-Eric Verne with a lighter car is definitely going to start to take on the Prost. And as they come down to the first corner, he's going to need to make a bold move if he wants to get into second position. Especially now that Takuma Sato is stretching out a lead out in front in the Onyx. He's gone. Look at that. 3.7 seconds clear as Tarquini goes for Glock. So Glock, who's on a heavy fuel load as well, is just tumbling down the field. So the heavier car in a straight line is really struggling for grip. Well, struggling for pace, I should say. In the corners, obviously, there isn't really a speed differential. And certainly not enough of one to cause a major headache. It's in a straight line where the Prosts and Timo Glock in the Super Aguri are vulnerable. But clearly Glock deciding that with a poor qualifying performance here in Fuji as he had in Malaysia, he wanted to try something a bit different in terms of strategy. So that is what he has done. There's Pedro Diniz in the Midland. Not having the most competitive of outings, it has to be said. Only Delatraz and Wolf behind him. But the Midland really does seem to have fallen off in pace over the last few races. They have points, but now even 40 have more points than them in the championship. So Midland, although they may not be the slowest car in the field, they are definitely the lowest car in the team standings. So Takuma Sato for the Onyx team leads the way. Onyx have not won a race in the Downforce Grand Prix World Series. They never won a race in F1 either. Here comes Jean-Eric Verne. Side by side with Pedro Della Rosa, and it looks as though Hulkenberg's taking on Alguersuari at the same time, and Frines is taking on De Grassi. Slipstream City, it is here in Fuji, and Verne is into second place. So Verne gets Della Rosa, Hulkenberg gets Alguersuari, and De Grassi gets Frines. So De Grassi holds on in front of Robin Frines. That's the only difference, really. But every other move worked, so Hulkenberg displaces Alguersuari down to 5th, and Verne has got through into second place past Della Rosa. So a very exciting battle then, and Jean-Eric Verne now feels that after a quiet race in Malaysia, he really wants to go for a victory. And he's now ahead of both the Prosts, so it's game on for BAR. The Arrows team struggling a little, and Kobayashi has lost the place to Scott Dixon. So Dixon has got through. Oh, and that's why! Another failure for Kamui Kobayashi in the Arrows team, an engine failure. Well, this time it's Kobayashi and not Hulkenberg, but it's not going to make them any more. It's not going to give them any consolation, and for Kamui Kobayashi, he will not get a home finish here in Fuji. He can't believe his luck. He's giving all sorts of problems to the AGS behind of Rossi, and I think Rossi will have found that very tricky to run behind Kobayashi. But I'm afraid it is game over for the Arrows. I think he's trying to bring the car back to the pits, but he's not allowed to bring a car that's smoking into the pit lane, so that's a bit of a mad moment there for Kamui Kobayashi, but it's bitter disappointment for the man in second in the championship. He's not going to gain points as Frines has got past De Grassi now. And on the straight, it looks like there could be a couple more overtaking moves. Courtney having a look at Brendan Hartley. What is Kamui Kobayashi doing still driving that car? He's obviously causing a bit of a headache for a few of the teams out there down the home straight. He's kept it going. He's still going. So, bizarre from Kamui Kobayashi when your engine is catching fire like that. Normally, you would pull the car off to the side of the racetrack pretty quickly. We're on board with Takuma Sato. And Della Rosa is there in third. Is Kamui Kobayashi still going? Yes, he is. Kobayashi completely unwilling to pull over. And now he has done so. So Kobayashi, I'm afraid, out of the race, but he motored for pretty much an entire lap with smoke billowing out of the car. So if drivers start going off the circuit, we'll know why. But Kamui Kobayashi, I'm afraid, will not add to his or the Arrows team's tally. And he is out of the race here in Fuji in front of home soil. That is devastating and very disappointing. Well, it's all been a very tricky situation for them. Now, we've got our superfan, Remco van Engelen, who we are totally encouraging to run his own team when a new season starts up again. At Prost, they must do an undercut to have a chance against Verne or Sato. That's pretty much what we expected as well. That's what we thought. But Verne and Sato are having a great run. Freins is having another go. This time looking at the back of Alguersuari's Prost. Hulkenberg has already got past it. Freins is right there behind. And Sebastian Bourdais having a bit of a moment at turn 1. Just a little puff of tyre smoke as Van Dorn settles in behind him. So Simtek didn't get the best of qualifying performances, but they are now 9th and 11th. So they are making some gains. And that is important from their point of view. Also, the likes of Rossi and James Courtney are making big gains as well. James Courtney's having a great race. So it'll be a really exciting battle. And here's Robin Freins up the inside of Alguersuari. Alguersuari is trying to squeeze him out. And he has done so, but Freins gets on the power and gets by. No problem at all. He's not going to be distracted by him, and he's certainly not going to give second best. So Takuma Sato leads here in Fuji. And he's stretching out the gap to 4.5 seconds to Jean-Eric Verne. He wants to leave, no doubt. And never before has anybody, I think, in the entire history of the Downforce Grand Prix World Series wanted the man in the lead pulling away to get the victory. It's only his second race in the series, and I'm sure Takuma Sato is going to be in the shop window for other teams for next year, if not for Onyx. But it'll be interesting to see whether he stays or whether he goes. Onyx snapped him up before Super Aguri even had a word with him, apparently. But here is the move from Andre Lotterer. And look at that. Look at the manner of Hartley. Is just so heavy in a straight line on a one-stopper. But they do seem to feel that even though they're losing places, the one-stop strategy is the better strategy long-term. De La Rosa's only 7 seconds off the lead on in a heavier fuel-loaded car. So maybe the Prost team have a point. The Prost team and only a few other cars have really gone on a one-stop strategy here. But looking at how fast the Prost team are, they do have a chance to win this race on a one-stop strategy. It's all going to come down to tyre life and how they look after the compound. Hulkenberg is pushing though. He wants to take on De La Rosa and get by. And that will certainly help others out. De Grassi's got past Alguersuari as well now. So De Grassi up into P6. So this is a long game from Prost. And they've got to hope that Sato and Verne hit trouble over the course of the race. So it's a brave and bold gamble from Prost, but they have a win in their pocket. They're scoring points relatively consistently now. Emma Butterworth has made the point that they're considering changing engine manufacturers next season. Well, they have gone for Alfa Romeo in 2020. What's that old adage? You're never a true petrolhead until you've owned an Alfa Romeo. And they don't have a massive reliability record. So unfortunately for Alfa Romeo... Oh, Jean-Eric Verne! Twitching very hard indeed there as he came through. But then he is pushing. The BAR wants to get a win. He's had 3 wins already this season. And it's been a very competitive season for him. He's had wins, obviously, at 3 different circuits over the course of the year. He's won at Bathurst, he won at Brno, and he won fairly recently as well when he took victory at Chennai in India. And as a result of those 3 wins, he has a decent lead in the championship. But since last time out, he's struggled as Paul Di Resta has a look at Jaime Alguersuari's Prost, but has not been able to get through. He's a weird entity, is Paul Di Resta. He has good races, and then he has fairly average races. He got a penalty at the end of the last race at Shah Alam in Malaysia when he ignored blue flags as Scott Dixon locks up and stops the Simtek from going off the road. Now, Dixon and Van Dorn were fighting for victory last time out. They've really struggled so far here. I don't know what it is about the balance of the Simtek. The Ilmor engine is the second most powerful engine in the field. So for some reason, they are still struggling in the on pace a little bit. Maybe if the car comes back to them, or maybe it's the sympathetic handling, the mechanical grip of the car, but whatever. De La Rosa's losing third place to Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg's got through, and Freins is now being attacked by Di Grassi. Lots of overtaking down that long straight here at Fuji, as we expected there to be. And it's made life easy for De La Rosa to move aside and not have to panic too much about the others. They can just do their thing. He's focusing on his own race. And he's only lost 10 seconds to Takuma Sato on lap 14. Meanwhile, Robin Freins is the next one to close up on De La Rosa. And he's got pressure of his own from Lucas Di Grassi in the manor. Here comes Di Grassi, making the bid up the inside of Freins. He thinks better of it. So Di Grassi still edging his way towards Robin Freins. Puff of smoke from Alguersuari up the road. Sorry, no, that's De La Rosa, isn't it? De La Rosa up in front of them. And there is Jean-Eric Vergne, 4.4 seconds behind Takuma Sato. That is a margin he can still win the race from. And we know that the Isuzu engine is not the most reliable, but they would dearly love to win with Takuma Sato on home soil. As Scott Dixon tries to close up on Paul Di Resta and Jaime Alguersuari. Di Resta is almost certainly going to be making a move on Jaime Alguersuari down the main straight sooner rather than later. And let's have a look at it if we can get a little bit closer to them. Well, there's Hulkenberg. And so far, well, Di Grassi's going to make a late bid on the inside of Freins, and he makes it stick. So Di Grassi not prepared to wait around behind Robin Freins any longer. And the manor sticks it to the man on the inside and gets him into 5th position. 6 different teams in the top 6 places now. You don't get to say that too often in most forms of Premier single-seater racing. But Takuma Sato in the Onyx, running well in front of Jean-Eric Vergne and Nico Hulkenberg. Then it's Pedro De La Rosa in 4th in the Prost. Lucas Di Grassi in the Manor is 5th. And Robin Freins is in 6th place, running a very solid race in the Super Aguri. Di Grassi running in 6th place in... Oh, yes, Di Grassi has lost the place again to Freins. That's why I got confused. But Freins has got past Di Grassi once again. I wonder how that happened. Let's have a look. Freins got through at the chicane. So Di Grassi got the move done on Freins, but Freins got him straight back again. So a nice little battle between these two developing. But Freins is indeed in front of Di Grassi again. So those two could be swapping places several times over the course of this race, based on their current form and based on the fact that they are quite closely matched together in terms of raw speed. Timo Glock. Whoa, that's a spin from Taki Inui. Oh, and he's been hit! He's been hit there by Pedro Diniz. So let's have a look at that again. We're on board with Pedro Diniz for this one. Now, did he have enough time to react? Let's have a look. He gets down into the braking zone. A wayward 40 spins. And Diniz has nowhere to go. In fact, well, Diniz did not really brake in time, did he? So I'm afraid to say that Pedro Diniz, well, he's got a broken front wing and Taki Inui does not. So I would think that Pedro Diniz has pretty much sorted himself out there, really. It's not been the best decision for Pedro Diniz, but he's paid his own price there. So I don't think there's going to be any more repercussions from that one, because he's already had an incident or two. But an absolutely fascinating battle. So now, Gabriele Tarquini making his way through as the battle continues on its way. Sato, Vergne, Hulkenberg, De La Rosa, Freins, Di Grassi is the top 6. Then it's Jaime Alguersuari from Paul Di Resta, Scott Dixon and Sebastian Bourdais in the top 10. A terrific run from the BMS Italia on this occasion as James Courtney tries to move forward, but Gabriele Tarquini is the one we were watching just then. Sebastian Bourdais in P10 in the Onyx, running after the Simtek of Scott Dixon, the 5-time IndyCar champion. It's going to be a tough old race, this one, I can tell. There's obviously going to be quite a few twists and turns in the drama at this one. It won't be the longest race in history because, of course, it's a 67-lap race and we're at the end of lap 16. Into lap 17 goes Jean-Eric Vergne. Now, he is keeping the pace to Takuma Sato. He's not letting the Onyx get too far ahead. This is crucial in terms of the race battle. But Vergne is the championship leader and he wants to keep a very solid race under wraps. Now, fair play to Taki Inui. He actually had a big issue But Taki Inui was running very well up until that little spin and then a nudge from Pedro Diniz. But Diniz has been into the pits to repair the car. And Taki Inui, unfortunately, now finds himself down at the back of the grid. Just one retirement so far, and it's Kamui Kobayashi, the Arrows driver, with Sato in the lead from Jean-Eric Verne in second. Then Nico Hulkenberg is third from De La Rosa and Freins. De Grassi is sixth from Alguersuari, De Resta, Dixon and Sebastien Bourdais. That's the top few positions in the points. Paul De Resta again has a look at Jaime Alguersuari and again just doesn't quite have the horsepower in the Cosworth engine to out-drag him. So that would be an absolutely fantastic run if he can get himself up in front of Alguersuari. The Cosworth engine not quite as strong. Here's Hulkenberg. He didn't make the finish in Malaysia, and his teammate Kamui Kobayashi has not made the finish today. The Alfa Romeo engine clearly causing some headaches in this second half of the season. They've had so many DNFs in their last 6 starts over the last 3 races. They have had 1 finish, and that was Kamui Kobayashi, 4th place at Shah Alam last time out. So there is the BAR of Jean-Eric Verne, and they will continue their battle. Into the pits comes Robin Freins, Pascal Wehrlein and Alex Rossi. So quite a few cars. Oh, and that's Lucas De Grassi. De Grassi's in trouble. For the 2nd race in a row, De Grassi's hitting trouble. And I'm afraid it's game over for the Manor. So Lucas De Grassi is going to be the next one to chalk it up to experience and retire from the race. So Alguersuari goes through and De Resta will go through, but again, Lucas De Grassi is not exactly being particularly sporting here as the field swarms its way around. Dixon under some pressure from Bourdais and, well, I think there could be a reprimand for the Manor driver after this one, but Kamui Kobayashi likewise, he definitely needs to pull over now. The car is now spouting flames. So Lucas De Grassi needs to get off that circuit and out of that car pretty darn quick, because that is turning into quite a nasty moment, and the engine finally dies. So Lucas De Grassi will pull out of the race from what was a solid points-paying position, but it is game over for Lucas De Grassi. The Brazilian will not complete the race here, and that is absolutely gut-wrenching for the Manor team. They obviously had a double points finish staring them in the face last time out, and then in the closing stages Lucas De Grassi retired from the race, but it's ended up being a problem again here, and there hasn't really been a lot of joy as a result of watching these races pretty much dissipate. And Verne is in the pits from 2nd place, so Verne comes in from P2 and he has rejoined out of the pit lane in 11th position. So Verne rejoins in P11. That shows you actually that because of the fast pace of this circuit and the long straight, it's not actually been there's not actually been a massive gap that's been able to build up from Sato and Verne at the front of the field. So they are actually getting back into the field in a fairly reasonable position. You know, they haven't lost a massive amount of time, the lower end of the field, to the leaders. So there's still quite a fair bit of a way to go. Now, this is going to be an absolutely fantastic battle and a great run as the competition remains fairly joined. And the drivers are working their magic around the circuit. Takuma Sato pits in. I want to find that pit stop. Hulkenberg's in as well. But let's join Sato's pit stop. A very important race pit stop for Takuma Sato. And he is on a 2-stop strategy. 10.1 seconds. Not a bad run at all from him. In fact, one of the best runs I've seen from a novice. And De Resta comes in, as does Dixon, and Hulkenberg is already in, of course. So out onto the circuit goes Takuma Sato. Where will he rejoin? He gets out in 5th position, and there is Verne in the background. So Verne is in the background. And so it's as you were, essentially, between the two of them. As Alexander Rossi goes down the main straight, battling with one of the 40s. And that is a side-by-side run from those two. Hoping for a good run. But this is obviously going to be a very tall order, as there is the race leader. Oh, sorry, that's the 2nd place man, Jaime Alguersuari. Now, in this particular section of the race, it's going to be Prost 1 and 2. Stoffel Van Dorn will be third briefly. Hartley will be fourth. Hartley will be third for a while because he's on a one-stop strategy as well. But this is going to be an interesting race, how it plays out. So now the competition is going to be very interesting and intense to watch as the pit stop strategy plays out. Stoffel Van Dorn in third position. Sebastian Bourdais is going to lose out to Pascal Wehrlein. Wehrlein gets through and passes Bourdais for 12th. And into the pits comes Stoffel Van Dorn. So Van Dorn in third position is now in the pit lane. So let's have a look at that pit stop from the Simtech. Hartley and Sato go through. So points in the bag for Simtech if they can have a decent run. And I have to say, Fuji is definitely being kinder to the race cars than we've seen in previous races. Very similar to that at Bathurst. I wonder if it's the high altitude that is actually benefiting the cars. The setup means that they've been quite kind to their machinery. So out onto the circuit goes Van Dorn, and his teammate Dixon is going to fly by. And there is the other Onyxer, Bourdais. Oh, and there's Wehrlein as well. He just didn't quite time it right. And Sato, meanwhile, has overtaken Brendan Hartley for third position. So Sato has caught and passed Brendan Hartley. Now, he's on a relatively reasonable fuel load, but he's got fresher tyres, and that's where he's able to make the difference count as Hulkenberg gets the move on the inside of Timo Glock and gets the place, I do believe. No, Hulkenberg is through on Glock. But Takuma Sato is obviously the hero that everybody wants to see win this race here in Japan. From pole position, he dropped back initially at the start. He's not quite got the starts in these cars quite right. But he's definitely going pretty well. And Takuma Sato is still running a solid race. Now, let's have a look and see if we can find something in terms of pace of the cars. Unfortunately, we are trying to find out the lap times to give Remco van England a little bit more information on the lap times, so we haven't got that, but we can give you full loads. De La Rosa's still got a bit of a way to go on this stint. Takuma Sato is lapping quickly. He's actually going faster than he has gone before in the first stint, and he had the fastest lap of the race for a short time, so expect a new fastest lap very soon. Hartley is going about the same length of time into the race, so his pit stop will mirror, his strategy will mirror that of Sato's. Verne is closing up on him though with fresher tyres, so that could be interesting. Hulkenberg is currently 6th, but going on for another pit stop later. Glock is next up, and he's got his one stop coming a bit later too. Robin Freins is going to try and make a move on his teammate, but Freins is not going to be allowed the chance to get past Glock there. De Resta has another 20 laps or so before his own second pit stop. Dixon, Bourdais, Wehrlein and Van Dorn likewise. Van Dorn having a look at Wehrlein, can't get through. Alex Rossi and Andre Lotterer running smooth and consistently. James Courtney has got a decent run left of his fuel strategy. Delatraz has gone very deep into the race, of course, because he's on a one-stopper. But Tarquini and Marc Genet are definitely giving him a bit of pressure now. Then Davidson in the Minardi, Ericsson in the Midland, and Deniz his teammate. And of course the only two other cars remaining are Taki Inui in the 40 and the driver who has been lapped, that is Susie Wolf in the Lola. So Marc Genet is currently tucked up behind Gabriele Tarquini in the BMS Italia. Just the two retirements so far from the race, that of Kamui Kobayashi and Lucas Di Grassi, and this is for race position. Marc Genet might get two of them in one go here. Oh, he's all sorts of slipstreaming as Tarquini tried for the move. Marc Genet might go for it as well, but Delatraz not particularly fast. Genet tries to get up on the inside and can't quite make it through. He almost got the chance to double time them and get past both. That would have been something quite special. But Susie Wolf is being lapped here by Takuma Sato. Sato goes around the outside. And Susie Wolf not exactly helping the situation. She's really struggling with the Lola in this latter stage of the season. She has scored some points over the year, 10 points in total. And the Minardis are now tucked up behind Jean-Denis Delatraz. They've lost a lot of ground to the BMS Italia up the road, but they can't do anything about it because that's not a blue flag situation. Delatraz is on a one-stop strategy, so they're racing him. so there's nothing they can do about it, but it's definitely hampering the Minardi team's progress as De La Rosa leads 3.3 seconds ahead of teammate Jaime Alguersuari. But the superior horsepower of the Ford engine means that they might have a chance to win this here. They could still get the job done. Takuma Sato is the home hero, but he's in third place with one more stop to go. And De La Rosa and Alguersuari will pit first, but Sato needs to do something about the deadlock. Now here comes Davidson to pass Delatraz. Ericsson's going to get a straight line run again as well. But we look back at the Onyx. Here's Davidson. Davidson getting his bid on Delatraz. Lots of overtakes at the front end of the field, but there's been plenty in the midfield too, as Davidson goes up to P19 past Delatraz. We're on board with Stoffel Van Dorn in the Simtek. Second place last time out at Shah Alam, and only a dozen seconds behind De La Rosa. This time, Fuji does not quite seem to suit the Simtek package well. The engine is perfectly powerful, but it's mechanical grip where they seem to be struggling. So some cars are just not suited to certain circuits, and certainly Fuji. This is a race where they'll get points if they're fortunate, but it's not going to be a race-winning effort on pure speed. This is a 2-horse race, essentially. No, sorry, it's a 3-horse race. It's between the Prost twins of De La Rosa and Alguersuari, Takuma Sato in the Onyx, and Jean-Eric Vergne, the championship leader, in the BAR. They all have a good chance in this race. So we're just past 1/3 distance, so I think it's a good time to head down into the green room and have a natter with a few of my managers to see if anybody's got anything to say about the current phase of the situation. We've got De La Rosa on board, so let's pop down there and have a word with Tom Cairns, the Prost team manager. So far, so good for the Prost team. 1 and 2, but a one-stop strategy. It's clearly a bold one. Do you think it's going to pay off?
I hope so, Jake. I'm happy with where we are at the moment. I mean, Sato is clearly on the pace at the moment. We've got clear track ahead of us that we're not having any trouble with the back markers, and hopefully we won't be having trouble with any before both guys make their stops. I think what the one I'm worried about, Jake, is where are my drivers going to feed out when they do their stops, because I believe it's something like a 35 to 36 second window. So if, for instance, if we came in now, we'd be behind Dixon, both of the cars really. So we just got to hope some of the drivers, because I think Hartley's will be stopping around the same time as both De La Rosa and Alguersuari. We need to keep an eye as well on the likes of Sato, Vergne, and possibly Hulkenberg as well. But given where we are at the moment, it's a promising sight.
Okay, well, it should be a very exciting race for us to watch. We'll keep an eye on it. Thanks very much, Tom. We'll catch up with you guys a little bit later on in the race. So, yes, indeed, Tom Cairns, team boss at Prost, feeling that the one-stop strategy for De La Rosa and Alguersuari seems to be going just fine and dandy. They are 3 seconds apart, and they are 11 seconds ahead of Sato. So at the moment, so far so good for the Prost team. And as Topher Smith points out, it's been a very reliable race so far. Only 3 retirements from the race, just the 2. Kamui Kobayashi and Lucas Di Grassi. Susie Wolf, having her problem on the first lap, has put her way down the order. And sadly for her, the Lola just doesn't seem to have the horsepower to make the moves through the field. Fuji's had plenty of racing and good race craft as well. Some interesting strategy battles. Most people going for a 2-stopper. But Prost deciding a one-stop strategy is best, and Dixon has a look on the inside of Timo Glock and can't make it work. So Dixon getting held up behind Super Aguri, number 2. I say number 2 because Freins is ahead of him. But it is a fascinating scenario, that's for sure. And interestingly, of course, Timo Glock going for a one-stop strategy to try and bag some points. Whoops, that's Alex Rossi going off the circuit and spinning right in front of his teammate. So Andre Lotterat manages to avoid him, as does James Courtney, as does Tarquini, but the car is actually rolling down the hill. He needs to be careful. So this is a bit of an issue for the AGS. Has he stalled the engine? I think he might have stalled the engine. Oh, and he's been hit! He's been hit by Ericsson. But the problem is there that the engine has stalled for Rossi. Oh, well, that's got it going again. He's reversing. He was going the wrong way there to try and get the car going again. Well, oh, Rossi has really made a mess of this. And I'm afraid to say that Alex Rossi might have the book thrown at him for that, because he's let the car roll into the path of Marcus Ericsson, and Ericsson's got damage as a result of that. So there's definitely going to be a problem there for team boss Phil Kitch to sort out later. How's he going to explain that one? Rossi is down at the back, and Marcus Ericsson in the Midland is now in the pits for a repair job to the front wing. So that is definitely not what he wanted to see, and that's definitely cost Marcus Ericsson any chance of a point in this particular situation. Well, I'm not entirely sure how they can justify that one, but Alexander Rossi is going to be under investigation, I'm fairly sure. And indeed, it has been confirmed on the race feed. Race officials are now telling us that Rossi is under investigation for impeding another driver and causing damage to Marcus Ericsson's car, for letting the car roll because he hadn't stalled the engine. If he'd stalled the engine, I think that would have been a little bit different, but he was just waiting for an opportunity to spin turn the car, and unfortunately he basically rolled the car, three wheels in motion, into the path of Marcus Ericsson. So a big difficulty there. Takuma Sato continues on his way, and he is there in third position. Jean-Eric Vergne pushing hard and nearly loses the car altogether in the very slow section of the course, the tight and twisties of the second sector. But he was lucky to keep that one on the road. So now it's going to be a very exciting battle for the front end of the field, as Sato is caught up to 8 seconds now adrift of De La Rosa. So that still looks good for Onyx to have a chance of a victory with Takuma Sato down the main straight. Sato knows this circuit well. He's obviously tuned the car the way he likes it over the course of qualifying. And he is a bit of a breath of fresh air to the championship. He's not going to win the world title, that's for certain. But certainly next year, he could be a force to be reckoned with. And Sato seems to have the knack for this. De La Rosa leads. Alguersuari second. Sato third. From Vergne, Hartley, Hulkenberg, Freins, Di Resta, Dixon and Bourdais. So down the straight. And that is Hulkenberg passing Brendan Hartley. Is Hartley having an issue, or is it just on pure speed? Well, we're certainly getting a move done now as Van Dorn passes Timo Glock. So Van Dorn passes Glock, and I'm fairly sure that was Hartley losing a place to Hulkenberg on the main straight as well. There is the confirmation there of Hulkenberg through on Hartley. So the one-stop strategy for Hartley is definitely going to be a little bit hard to maintain. The man is not going to get as many points as it would like. Meanwhile, Takuma Sato is closing up on Jaime Alguersuari. We're on board with Jean-Denis Delatraz, the Swiss ace in the 40. So this is going to be an absolutely incredible battle for this man, Robin Freins. He just wants to get into the top 6. And he's only one place away from that at the moment. Well, the vice captain of the AGS team, Andrew Sanson, says AGS are protesting the investigation. We all know Rossi is an idiot, so no investigation needed. That's a rather blasé way to talk about your drive. Oh, Vergne in trouble again! Jean-Eric Vergne is going to be out of the race. And that is game over for BAR. For Jean-Eric Vergne. Oh. Well, for the second race in a row, and for the 4th time this season, Jean-Eric Vergne is going to score nothing. Well, unfortunately for the Arrows team, Kamui Kobayashi can't even take advantage of it because he's already out of the race. But the leading 2 drivers in the championship are out. And that is big drama for Jean-Eric Vergne. His season is tumbling around his ears now. 2 retirements in a row. He's got to hope that the big names behind him are not going to score now. Because, of course, there are still a few teams out there with drivers who have high scores. So, Brendan Hartley, Marc Genet, Andre Lotterer, Lucas Di Grassi, Timo Glock, Pedro De La Rosa, they all have a chance to score high. Particularly De La Rosa, if he wins this race, he's going to get 88 points. And that will put him, well, depending on how many Hartley scores, that would put him into 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. And very much in the hunt for it. But Vergne will not score. Kobayashi will not score. This man might score big. Takuma Sato down the home stretch. A fascinating run. He's still got about 15 laps to go on this stint. And he's in the 124s. Whereas the Prosts are in the 125s. So Sato is definitely catching them at the rate of about a second a lap. But within the next 6 laps or so, the lead is going to come in. Within the next 5 laps, Alguersuari is going to come in. So Alguersuari is not fueled as far into the stint as De La Rosa is. So Alguersuari will pit in first, then De La Rosa. Now there could be as little as a lap between them as Hulkenberg laps the Lola. And this is where arrows can really cause a headache to BAR, because Hulkenberg is in 4th place at the moment. They could score some big points to close up on BAR, and De La Rosa makes the mistake. They're feeling the pressure big time here at the front of the field. De La Rosa knows that a one-stop strategy is going to be hard to sustain, and of course those tyres are very old too. So he's just got to keep it together. But that is not easy. So De La Rosa still trying hard to pull away. Here's Delatraz. Sinking like a stone is the euphemism that comes to mind. As Deniz is going to get up the inside. The one-stop strategy on old tyres not quite giving Delatraz the package he needs. And even Taki Inui, his teammate, is now going to start making an inroad for him. But only 3 retirements, and they are big names. Kobayashi, Degrassi, and Jean-Eric Verne in the BAR. Well, for the others, there could be some decent finishes, which means prize money aplenty. But that is only the fourth time all year, and the second race in a row that Jean-Eric Verne has retired this season. There have been retirements for so many of the others. They all know the pain of it. Fascinatingly, Brendan Hartley has managed to finish every race this year since Brno. So he's actually had a really strong run of form of late. And hopefully that will continue into this race as well. Pretty much everybody else has had a DNF in the last 4 races without issue. Or at least without argument, I should say. Certainly the issue is there because that's the reason they retired in the first place. But Di Resta in 7th place is trying to get away from Scott Dixon in the Simtek and close in on Robin Freins in the Super Aguri. Simtex are 8th and 10th, I should say, because Bourdais is in between them. Wehrlein is 11th, Glock is 12th, then Lotterer, Courtney and Tarquini. Sparks flying for the back of Takuma Sato's Onyx as he goes down the main straight again. We're on lap 32 of 67. And De La Rosa is 2.7 ahead of his teammate Jaime Alguersuari. So Alguersuari is being caught here by Takuma Sato, who is only 5 seconds back from the race lead now. Ryan Ferris is praying to every single deity he can think of at the moment. Because out in front, the Prosts are being caught by Takuma Sato. There's a genuine chance of this now. They know just what's at stake. So there is a very good chance indeed that Ryan Ferris could be giving Onyx a celebration party, Japanese style. Hand out some sake later. I stress later though. So the manner is running well for Brendan Hartley in 5th position. His teammate is already out of the race, unfortunately, after an engine failure. But Lucas Degrassi's teammate Brendan Hartley is on yet another good race, and hopefully another finish is in the bag for him. He's been very strong and consistent through the year and has finished every race since Brno. But De La Rosa leads Alguersuari by 2.5. Sato closing in sector by sector at the second split. He is now just 4.7 back. De La Rosa leads the way. Now, is there going to be a pit stop? Not on this lap there isn't for the Prosts, but they are being caught rapidly. And just in a straight line, Sato is going to gain big time on the 2 Prosts. In the slipstream, the Onyx works very well. Certainly in the hands of Sato it does. So De La Rosa, Alguersuari and Sato. Hulkenberg is 4th from Hartley, Freins, Di Resta, Dixon, Bourdais and Van Dorn. And we are being told that a penalty is being handed out for Alex Rossi. Well, that is not good news. The AGS is going to get the penalty. And unfortunately, that will obviously compromise his position. But a 30-second penalty for Rossi for impeding Marcus Ericsson and then damaging his car. So 30 seconds penalty will be handed out to Alexander Rossi. That will be handed out post-race. That will be added to his race time. So we'll have to see where he finishes compared to those around him. But he's really going to struggle to make ground from there. But a 30-second penalty handed out to Alex Rossi from the AGS team regardless. Now, Di Resta sweeps around the outside of teammate Susie Wolf. Big difference between these two cars, as one of them has a fairly competitive driver who's having a really fun time of it. The other has Susie Wolf in it, and she's not having a fun time of it. But De La Rosa leads the way. What about Alguersuari? He's still going. Sato is gaining ground on them, though. The gap is down to just 4.4 seconds. Make that 4.3 seconds. So Sato is catching the Prost Fords. What a race. This is an absolutely brilliant race battle. And Sato is just chipping away at them. He's not pushing too hard. He's just keeping them honest. But he knows that there is going to be a pretty exceptional battle in the offing. They complete the first sector. And Sato has got that gap down to 4.3. Back to De La Rosa in the lead. He's only 1.7 behind Alguersuari. But De La Rosa leads. He now has a victory in his pocket after Malaysia. So the team know how to get this job done. But can they do it for 2 races in a row? That will definitely help them. Topher Smith points out Sato is on a different strategy to the Prosts. It's still open. If Sato can make use of the extra fuel on board in the last few laps, he might be able to undercut them. He's definitely pulling away. He's definitely closing in, sorry. But if Sato can undercut them, he can leapfrog them in the pit stops. So out of the final turn, looks like Alguersuari might be making a pit stop. Yes, Alguersuari's coming in. So into the pits comes Jaime Alguersuari. Diniz is in the pits as well. That's for a scheduled stop. That is his one and only stop of the race. But into the pits comes Jaime Alguersuari. Now, hopefully he's not going to be impeded on the way out of the pits. Indeed, he's not. Diniz has already left the pit. So the car is fueled up to the finish. No major disaster so far for Alguersuari. 11 seconds is about right for the stop to see him through to the end of the race. Now, Alguersuari needs to get out in relatively clear traffic. But Dixon's gone through. Now, can he beat Bourdais and Van Dorn out of the pits? That's going to be the crucial thing, because if he's right in behind them, it could be very difficult for Alguersuari to make progress. They've both gone through. So Alguersuari rejoins behind the Simtek of Stoffel Van Dorn. That is not good news for Jaime Alguersuari. He needed clean air. He could have really done with beating them out of the pits, but that's how much time you lose in the pit stops. So Alguersuari is going to have to try and get back up to speed. Marcus Ericsson really struggling with that car since it was ram-raided Mad Max style by AGS's Alexander Rossi. A very difficult situation. But not a lot he can do about that now. Takuma Sato closing in on De La Rosa, who is not pitting yet. But I have a feeling on the next lap it will be. Across the line. And yes, the pit signal goes up. So De La Rosa will be coming into the pits on the next lap. Takuma Sato has got the gap down to 4 seconds. So over the next few laps, and Sato has got another 8 laps or so before his next pit stop, he's got to pull away and gain 4 seconds on De La Rosa to beat him on pure pace. But the other Onyx is out. Sebastien Bourdais, engine failure. So Sebastien Bourdais, I'm afraid, is out of the race. That is not good news. And that's definitely going to be ringing some alarm bells over at the Onyx team. Well, that definitely doesn't bode well. Sato continuing to push, hoping that he can get the car to the flag. He now has at least 2 points in the Drivers' Championship at least, and that is for the 2 pole positions he has scored. And there's Nico Hülkenberg in 3rd position in the Arrows. He could score very well here as a result of just sitting tight and waiting to see what happens. A 4th place finish is very much on the cards for Hülkenberg. More solid points and Arrows. But is Sato going to have enough pace to beat the Prosts? Because on a straight line pace, the Prost is a very quick car. The quickest car in terms of horsepower. But into the pits now comes Pedro De La Rosa. This is where the race is going to be won and lost. Dives for the pit lane on lap 37. 30 laps to go. Sato sweeps by and into the lead. Now Sato has got to absolutely gun it like stink. But this is where we're interested. De La Rosa in the pits. They've got to have a clean stop. 11 seconds is about how long it'll take. because it's a heavy fuel load they're taking on board. It's going to be a long stop, so this will definitely put them back. 10.7, not a bad stop. Hulkenberg goes by. Hartley will go by. Freins will go by. De Resta and Dixon will probably go by. But where is the Prost going to get out? Because obviously Van Dorn is still very close in. Dixon goes by. Where's Van Dorn? He's going to split the Simtex. That is not bad going from De La Rosa. He hasn't quite got that first corner the way he wants. So Sato now needs to gun it like stink. He's got to push, and he's got to push hard. This is going to be a very difficult race to win now for Takuma Sato, but he knows it. As Jean-Denis Delatraz nearly loses it at the same place that Alexander Rossi went off. But can Takuma Sato get this race won? Hulkenberg is second. Hartley is third. Freins is fourth. De Resta is fifth from Dixon. And then De La Rosa on the one-stop strategy. Alguersuari is on ninth place, also on a one-stop strategy. But most of these cars in front of them all have to pit again, including that man, Takuma Sato, who is just trying to get as far up the road as he possibly can before his own pit stop. If he can gain enough ground on De La Rosa, he can beat him out of the pits. And if he does, he'll have fresher tyres than the Prost and a golden opportunity to win on home soil. Here's Van Dorn lapping the Lola. Susie Wolff is not exactly helping drivers out, and she is definitely needing a bit of a nudge from the officials. Just a race after there was an investigation into Paul Di Resta for ignoring the blue flags. I think there could be some more difficulties. And indeed, there has been confirmation that Susie Wolff is under investigation for multiple blue flag infringement. De La Rosa's back in the pit! De La Rosa's back in the pits! What's the matter? He had a throttle problem! I don't believe it! There was a sticking throttle for Pedro De La Rosa, and now the dream is gone, surely. So De La Rosa needs to make another pit stop. It's over quickly, but De La Rosa's going to drop so far back. This is heartbreaking for De La Rosa. So now Alguersuari is going to go head-to-head with Takuma Sato. That couldn't have gone worse for the Prost team. They've had a pit stop, and then immediately a lap later, in again comes Pedro De La Rosa. It was a quick stop to reset the car. They didn't need to panic too much about that. And after 7.5 seconds of resetting the car and getting him back out there... Oh, Diniz is in trouble. Diniz is in trouble. He's got a loose wheel. Something's happened to Diniz out on circuit, and he's got a loose wheel. You can see the car with the wheel flailing at the back, so it's all over for Pedro Diniz. He's out in the Midland. So yet another retirement for the Brazilian, I'm afraid. But heartbreak for De La Rosa as he now rejoins, having had a second pit stop in 16th position. So 16th place now for Pedro De La Rosa. That is not what he deserved. And that definitely breathes a bit of a sigh of relief as well for Jean-Eric Vergne and for Kamui Kobayashi on the sidelines. To see Pedro De La Rosa have a problem definitely gives them a little source of relaxation from a very tricky situation. It's damage limitation essentially, but Sato is now pushing, and Stoffel Van Dorn is out of the race. What's happened to Van Dorn? Engine failure. Well, the car was pushed very hard after Malaysia, and Stoffel Van Dorn, I'm afraid, obviously not able to maximise the true potential of the package, and the engine failure just rubs salt into a very open wound for Stoffel Van Dorn. He's not going to get the points he needs from this race. But as a result of all of that, Dixon is now up into 6th place for Simtech. De Resta is into the top 5. Freins is 4th. Hartley is 3rd. Hulkenberg is 2nd, behind the race leader Takuma Sato. Now, Alguersuari is 33 seconds back from Takuma Sato. Now, Sato is not going to have as long a pit stop as the Prost did, because he's not going to need as much fuel in the car, whereas Alguersuari's pit stop was 11 seconds. I think Takuma Sato's pit stop is only going to be about 9 at the very most, because he'll put less fuel into the car, so that surely gains him 2 seconds just on paper right there. But Sato is still going full guns, as into the pits comes Brendan Hartley. So Brendan Hartley from third comes in, and that obviously lets Frines and Di Resta through. Now Hartley is in for his one and only pit stop. So this is a very long fuel strategy for Brendan Hartley, but obviously he seems to feel that is exactly how it's gone. A very tricky situation. So Timo Glock is in the pits as well for Super Aguri. And obviously that is for his one and only pit stop as well, having fallen out of the top 10. Nico Hulkenberg in second place for Arrows. Looking like he could have a good run. Andre Lotterer gets it a little bit crossed up in the interim. So a fascinating situation as the competitors are still wheeling their way around the circuit, but it's not the easiest situation. And so now there's going to be a fascinating duel between Hulkenberg and Frines for the final couple of steps on the podium with Jaime Alguersuari. Now, interestingly, Alguersuari is actually catching Sato. Alguersuari has gained a second on Takuma Sato in the last lap. So this is not done. And as Tom Butterworth points out, De La Rosa is still on for a good points haul. 7th or 8th is still very much on the cards. So he's still weary of the fact that Prost will still score reasonably well if they can get the cars to the finish. They've only managed to do that one at a time in the past. Meanwhile, Taki Inui is just loving racing on home soil and driving his heart out in the 40. With the Life engine that they've got on has engineered very smartly through the season. They've scored 6 points over the course of the year, which is 6 points more than 40 ever scored in 2 seasons. De La Rosa has made the move on Davidson. Up into 13th goes Pedro De La Rosa, so he is cutting through the field pretty rapidly. And here is Robin Frines in the Super Aguri running in third. Here's Timo Glock now trying to get his move done on Rossi. And De La Rosa has lost ground behind Davidson. De La Rosa trying to go for Davidson. Davidson is not helping him out. I think Davidson's just had a pit stop and now has come out right in front of Pedro De La Rosa. So that has not helped at all. And Davidson is actually racing him for position, so there's no blue flags. But De La Rosa is going to struggle here because Davidson has got good mechanical grip with that Minardi. De La Rosa is going to try and pull out to get alongside him, ready for the next chicane. But he has to back out of it, and that's going to cost De La Rosa some time. Oh, and Pascal Wehrlein out of the race. BAR are out. Now, what happened? Let's find out what happened. Oh, Pascal Wehrlein had a puncture. Puncture for Wehrlein. And it's all gone wrong for BAR. Their race is over. Well, Wehrlein was looking solid for points, but now it's all come to nothing. So Pascal Wehrlein retires from the race, I'm afraid to say. And so no points for BAR for the second race in a row. Meanwhile, the big story, though, is Takuma Sato, because he's leading the race, but Alguersuari has just overtaken Scott Dixon on the home straight to move up into 6th position. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, up to 5th position, sorry. Alguersuari's in P5 now, past Dixon, as Brendan Hartley is battling with Marc Genet for the final point down the home straight. So here comes Brendan Hartley, side by side with Marc Genet. They've got to be very careful here. Oh, Genet's going to try and get him straight back again. So Genet comes back up the inside and completely outfoxes Hartley in the braking zone. Genet's still a very feisty racer. He's been with Minardi and then as a tester with Williams and Ferrari. So he's definitely a very safe pair of hands. Hulkenberg is dropping back from the leader Sato, but the Prosts are moving forward. De La Rosa trying to get past Davidson. Davidson will not yield. De La Rosa having a big headache here because he is racing Davidson for position, but he's got a much faster car than the Minardi Lamborghini. It's got good power, the Lamborghini engine, but certainly the Ford has had a lot more work done to it over the course of the season. And so here we go again. Now, De La Rosa can't afford to wait around too long here. Sato in trouble! Sato's got an engine problem! The whole of Japan cries its eyes out as the race leader goes. Oh, that is just tragic. Takuma Sato out from the lead. Engine failure, and the dream is over. The fairy tale romance of Takuma Sato winning at home is now a thing of the past. Well, that certainly gives Alguersuari a great chance of the victory now, because obviously the leaders have all still got to pit in for another stop. Hulkenberg, Freins and Di Resta will all make another stop. Alguersuari passes the scene of Takuma Sato's retirement, and I think it's only right that we try and get down there and have a word with one of our team managers. Well, Ryan Ferris is not actually there at the moment. He's obviously not willing to discuss what's going on. He's just devastated on the pit wall. A real shame. A real shame. And that is... I don't really know what to say about that one. A bitter disappointment for the local fans, as both their heroes, Takuma Sato and Kamui Kobayashi, are now out of the race. And that means that the only man in the race to fly the flag for Japan is Taki Inui. And he is running in 15th place now. De La Rosa trying to make his move. Oh, Delatraz is going to be out. Delatraz out. Engine failure for the 40. Wow, Jean-Denis Delatraz joins the retirement list as Di Resta comes into the pits from P3. So Paul Di Resta now comes into the pit lane, and the Lola will obviously have another race to run for the second half of the race. I'm just still flabbergasted and baffled and bitterly disappointed for Takuma Sato. It was looking so good for him to get the win for Onyx, but now neither Onyx will finish the race. And here's your new leader, Nico Hulkenberg. Here comes De La Rosa, finally getting the move done on Davidson as Di Resta leaves the pit. And James Courtney comes into the pits as well for BMS Italia. So De La Rosa gets out behind Di Resta. De La Rosa's got Davidson back on the inside line, I do believe. Let's have another look at it. But there was a good battle down the straight. Yeah, De La Rosa got past Davidson, and Davidson just went, you know what? Sod it, I am racing you. I'm not going to let you have this place, and get straight back through again. So De La Rosa pretty frustrated with his lot. Robin Freins in second place in the Super Aguri, as James Courtney and Alex Rossi are now in the pit lane. And of course, Alexander Rossi has got a 30-second penalty being added to his race time later after impeding Marcus Ericsson. And we know that Susie Wolf is under investigation for blue flags. The second race in a row of an infringement. She escaped an investigation last time, but certainly causing an issue again today. And several team managers are quite disgruntled at Susie Wolf's activities out on circuit. As Davidson and De La Rosa continue to swap positions. Dixon is now in the pit. So Dixon is having his pit stop, and De La Rosa is finally through. De La Rosa finally gets by Davidson. So the Minardi will not be a match for the Prost in a straight line this time, I'm sure. So De La Rosa is obviously now into 9th position. But it's looking likely that the other Prost will get a victory after all, as Jaime Alguersuari just needs to sit tight in 3rd position and wait for Hulkenberg and Freins to make their pit stops. Here is Robin Freins. And it's not going to be long before he makes his pit stop. Hulkenberg is coming in on this lap, by the way. So the Arrows is coming in as Tarquini pits in from 10th place. That hands the place to Timo Glock. And there is Robin Freins in 2nd in the Super Aguri, running in front of Jaime Alguersuari, who is about to inherit the lead. But with Takuma Sato out of the race, the battle for victory, the intensive fight, has rather sadly fizzled out of the race a little bit. Hopefully it'll be spiced up again in the second half with more battles still to develop. But Robin Freins is going to take the lead now as in comes Nico Hulkenberg. He goes into lap 47. So with 21 laps to go, Hulkenberg pits in from the lead. And so now this will be a relatively short pit stop. It'll be about 9 seconds or so. And out onto the circuit he will go again. 9.5, not the fastest stop Arrows have done this year of that type, but certainly should be enough to get him out in 5th position. In fact, he might even still retain his 3rd place. Brendan Hartley is on the home straight. Alguersuari is 2nd, and looking at Robin Freins, and the gap between them was half a second at the last split. So Alguersuari is closing in on Freins, but it's academic. Mark Chenet comes into the pit in the Minardi, and Hulkenberg did rejoin, I should point out, in 3rd place. So he has a great chance of 2nd now. And Alguersuari very nearly went for the move on Frines. So he almost went through. Just into the chicane, but he obviously felt, you know what, there's no point trying a silly overtaking move. And, Alex Goldschmidt has made a statement. Based on Davidson's performances in the last couple of races, his seat was under scrutiny, but he's been told that he is remaining in the current driver lineup for the rest of the season. Well, a nice announcement to give to everybody just before the race ends. 20 laps before the race ends, as into the pits comes the race leader. There he goes, Robin Frines into the pits in the Super Aguri. He could get a podium in his second race, but then we said that about Takuma Sato. So into the pits comes Robin Frines, and this needs to be another competitive stop. Let's see how it goes. So Frines is running well in position. 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 9.3. Hulkenberg goes through to second place. Frines should get out in fourth position behind Brendan Hartley, I think. Hartley goes through. De Resta goes through as well. And Dixon shouldn't be a problem to beat out, but Dixon has been pushing hard. Yep, there is Frines in fifth position. So he beats Dixon out of the pit as Davidson pits in after an absolutely brilliant stint. He's really worked hard there. And now we are in the green room, so let's have a chat with our team managers. First of all, I think we should have a brief word with Ryan Ferris. Ryan, devastating situation. Takuma Sato, though, drove like an absolute champ out there, and I think we're all agreed in suggesting that as the hero of the hour, it's a real shame he couldn't make the flag.
Oh, he was absolutely gutted for both drivers, but especially for Takuma. He was doing an absolutely amazing job. He was managing the tyres, managing the fuel just as we wanted him to, and there was definitely the potential for a possible victory. And yeah, the engine just gave way, so yeah, double retirement in 2 races in a row. Definitely disappointed. So yeah, I think we need to invest a little bit more on the reliability side of things.
But I guess it's fair to say, though, that considering how good the package is now towards this end of the season, and Takuma doing such a good job, surely that's going to give him plenty of onus to now start thinking about a race seat for next year.
Oh yes, definitely. With 2 pole positions in a row, we haven't really seen that much this season. So to be so dominant in the qualifying sessions and being on the pace during the race is definitely very promising for the future.
Okay, well, thanks, Ryan. I know it's not the kind of conversation we wanted to have with you at this point, but a hearty congratulations for that point, and hopefully you'll be back again next time out. Well, that's the conversation you never want to have with the managers on the pit wall, running so well, and Sato looked so good for the victory today. But this man leads the way, Jaime Alguersuari, having taken over the lead of the race. Incredibly, only 37 seconds behind him, though, is his teammate Pedro de la Rosa, who took the victory last time out, of course, at Shah Alam. And the final 3 races of the year take us to the Americas. The next race is at Buenos Aires on the Autodromo y Oscar Galvez, which again hasn't been used for a Grand Prix for many years. The last one was 1998. And it'd be great to return Grand Prix racing and take it back to Argentina. And that will be where we end up next time out. That race will take place on Saturday. So Alguersuari in front of Hulkenberg. Here comes De Resta taking on Hartley. And although Taki Inui is the Japanese interest in the race, I really wanted to see this third place play out, and De Resta's got through. So De Resta's into third position. Remco van Engelen pointing out that Hulkenberg is actually lapping faster than the Prost. And that's a good point. The gap is down to 19.2. So the Prost team can't really ease off the gas, even though they've got a 19-second advantage over Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg is still giving them plenty of pressure. But De Resta has got himself through into third position, past Brendan Hartley. Then Robin Frines is fifth from Dixon, De La Rosa, Timo Glock. And a fascinating scenario playing out. Now, we are getting word from race officials. Now that is... well, that is a very draconian penalty. I have a feeling it's the worst for Susie Wolf, and it's definitely not what she wanted to see. But there is confirmation on my screen. Race officials have announced that Susie Wolf is to be handed a 1-race ban for continually ignoring blue flags. That is a very draconian penalty, and the team bosses Dan and Kai Bacchini are going to have to find another pair of hands for the next race, and that could actually impede their development, because obviously they'll have to find another driver to get into the car. So that is a very difficult situation. Now, obviously, they're going to have to replace Susie Wolf because they have a 1-race ban imposed on Wolf, but obviously if they haven't got the budget to replace, it will be carried over until they do. So essentially what they can do is enforce them only running one car at the next event, and that could be a real problem. So they've obviously got to make sure they spend their budget semi-wisely. They've got to make sure, obviously, that they spend their money on a driver replacement. So Paul Di Resta is going to have a new teammate next time out at Buenos Aires, and with 3 races to go, that teammate may well stay for the remainder of the season. Well, that has not happened so far in the Downforce Grand Prix World Series, but they basically stated that because it was done to numerous cars out on the circuit and in numerous events as well. It's not just once that Susie Wolf has had issues, but it's several races now that she has been under investigation by the stewards. So they have decided that enough is enough, and Susie Wolf has been handed a 1-race ban. So that means that she will not be racing in Argentina. Here comes the move from Robin Friends. He's going to have to brake later than Hartley to get into 4th place, and he has done it. Nice overtake from Robin Friends. So a great pass. Meanwhile, James Courtney is suffering the same fate as many drivers in this field. Currently sat behind Susie Wolf, who may have raced her last event in the Downforce Grand Prix World Series for 2020. Here comes Courtney to lap her. And not going to get held up for long, that's for certain. But Susie Wolf is now technically in the slipstream for the BMS Italia. She's going to have another go. Well, she's clearly deciding that she may as well go out with a bang. She's already received the ban, so that is quite a dramatic situation for the Lola team, and it's not one that they needed to have. Well, that'll be a very difficult situation. So now let's see how the team continues into Buenos Aires, but Lola have definitely got served there. And Susie Wolf will not be in the car at Buenos Aires. This man will, though. Paul Di Resta will remain in the car in 3rd place. And he's done a fairly good job of this race so far, but he is being caught by Robin Friends. And James Courtney again being held up by Susie Wolf. Well, this is not a good advert for any drivers wanting to hire her for the next season. So a big difficulty there as Jaime Alguersuari goes into the 1st sector. 17 seconds now ahead of Hulkenberg. So Hulkenberg is catching. And we're on lap 53 of 67. So that's 15 laps to go. And Hulkenberg is catching Alguersuari. So the Arrows driver, who has yet to win a Grand Prix, don't forget. Until he raced in the Grand Prix World Series, he had yet to finish on a podium in Formula 1. He actually holds the unenviable record for failing to score a podium in Formula 1. But he's had a 3rd place and 2 seconds over the course of the year, Nico Hulkenberg. And he has been in line for a victory a few times. If he gets the win today, he would almost certainly move into 4th place in the Drivers' Championship, overtaking the likes of Gene, Lotterer, De Grassi and Timo Glock. And ironically, Pedro de la Rosa. So he needs to keep the faith. But he's in 2nd place right now, so 18 points for Arrows would definitely be helpful for them right now, especially considering their reliability record hasn't been great in the last few meetings. Out of the 8 starts they've had in the last 4 races, they have had 1 finish. This would be the 2nd if Hulkenberg can keep it together. 16.2. He closes up even more on Jaime Alguersuari. So the Prost on older tyres is definitely not the car to be in at the moment. That car is the Arrows. Here's Di Resta in the Lola in 3rd place, but he's being hustled now, being caught by Robin Friends, who is definitely now giving himself a bit of an opportunity here, and Robin Friends is putting himself in the shop window for a race drive next season. So let's see how Robin Freins gets on in the latter stages of this race here at Fuji. 3 races to go in the championship after this one. And of course, a champion still to be decided. But with both of the main title protagonists, Jean-Eric Verne and Kamui Kobayashi out of the race, the gap remains at 36 points. Oh no, that's Di Resta! Di Resta engine failure! Oh no, the Lola's going to pull off. Well, that was going so well, but Paul Di Resta's podium is denied him. And he's actually pulled off. Oh, he's pulled off in front of De La Rosa! Oh, Paul Di Resta has already had a penalty or so this year. He certainly doesn't need another one, and that did not go well at all. So, Paul Di Resta out. And I'm sorry to say that that was a guaranteed podium finish. Well and truly gone. Robin Freins pushed him too hard. And now, unfortunately, the Lola Cosworth is gone from the Japanese Grand Prix. Not many retirements from this race, though, it's worth pointing out, compared to what we usually see. Di Resta out, Sato, Delatraz, Verline, Van Dorn, Diniz, Bourdais, Verne, Di Grassi and Kobayashi all out of the race. On board with Susie Wolff, who yet again is causing a headache for James Courtney. Or is that his teammate Gabriele Tarquini this time? I think it's Tarquini, in fact. But there could be a double points finish for BMS Italia in front of their Italian rivals, Minardi. So the BMS Italia, which is of course the Dallara squad in essence, could well beat Minardi today. And Dallara would love that if they can get into position and hold station. But Alguersuari leads the way. Hulkenberg second, 14 seconds back now. He really is rapidly gaining ground. So this race is definitely not long yet. Definitely not long to go, but it's not won yet either. So Tom Cairns is not happy at all with Paul Di Resta. And the Lola team are already under fire because their man has been banned. Oh, now this is interesting. This is a very interesting situation because I've just had a message from Super Aguri boss Topher Smith. Now this is quite a handy issue. Super Aguri has said it's offering the services of their reserve driver, Antonio Felix da Costa, on loan to MasterCard Lola at Buenos Aires, with a view to evaluating him for a race seat next season. Now, that's interesting. Now, because that's an offer that's been handed to them by Super Aguri, that would essentially mean they wouldn't have to spend too much of their... Well, they wouldn't have to spend a budget because he's on loan, essentially. But it's beneficial, of course, for Super Aguri because that gives them a chance to evaluate Antonio Felix da Costa. They're probably looking at Timo Glock's lackluster end to the season. They're looking at how quick Robin Freins is in the car. They might be wanting to give him a race drive. And potentially Antonio Felix da Costa as well. If da Costa goes well, then there's no reason why they wouldn't consider giving him a race seat. So an interesting little moment there. And Remco van Engelen says, I hope that Lola as a team have not got a penalty because of the actions from both drivers. As Andre Lotterer passes the Super Aguri of Timo Glock, who's got a water leak. A water leak developing for the Super Aguri. There it is. The smoke billowing out of the back of the Super Aguri, just as we were talking about Super Aguri. And Timo Glock, I'm afraid, his race is over. Well, it's been a very sorry end to the season for Timo Glock. He was looking like a title contender in the midway through the season, but in the last couple of races, certainly that form seems to have abandoned him. Well, I have a feeling that Lola will want to take up that offer from Super Aguri for Antonio Felix da Costa, and as it is a driver loan, it won't cost them any budget, but obviously they have to ban Susie Wolff from the race team for one race. So maybe Felix da Costa will get one outing for the team. If they want to keep him on board for longer than that, they may well have to do longer. They may well have to purchase him, so they'll have to see what happens, essentially. But certainly for Super Aguri on home soil, a retirement is not what they wanted to see. And Timo Glock is now out of the Japanese Grand Prix. And that means that we now have just 15 cars remaining in the race. Glock out, Di Resta, Sato, Delatraz, Verline, Stoffel Van Dorn, Pedro Diniz, Sebastian Bourdais, Jean-Eric Verne, Lucas Di Grassi and Kamui Kobayashi all out of the race. Just 15 cars remain here in Japan. And it's certainly in the latter stages of this race they're really starting to drop by the wayside. Jaime Alguersuari still leads 10 laps to go. There he is, the Prost. So Alguersuari is losing time. Oh, Dixon's falling now. An engine failure for Dixon. Oh, Simtek will not score this time. They had a second place last time out. But I'm afraid the bad luck has come back to Simtek. With 10 laps to go, Scott Dixon is out of the race as well. Well, this is definitely going to give Minardi and BMS Italia a bit of a reprieve because their cars are going to be scoring very high today. James Courtney up to 7th, Janae up to 8th, Tarquini up to 9th, and Davidson up to 10th. So the Italian battle between Dallara and Minardi goes into the points. But for Scott Dixon and the Simtek team, it's bitter disappointment. Well, Robin Frines is still 3rd, and about 4 seconds clear of Brendan Hartley. 5th is De La Rosa. So what was Tom Butterworth talking about earlier? He did say that the Prost would be a threat later on. And De La Rosa is there in P5. Oh, big moment from Robin Frines. Just a slight error in the car. I wondered if there was a mechanical problem developing as Tarquini is battling with Marc Genet now. The BMS Italia Dallaras are in 7th and 8th. The Minardis are in 9th and 10th. And it looks like a double points finish for both cars if they can just keep it going for the last 9 laps. But Alguersuari is only 12 seconds ahead of Nico Hulkenberg now. He really has cut that gap in half. So Hulkenberg is doing everything he can. He's throwing everything at it to try and gain the time to go for the victory. But I'm not sure he's going to have enough time. With 9 laps to go, 11.9 seconds is a smaller gap, but I don't think it's going to be enough for Hulkenberg to snatch the win. Genet tries again on Gabriele Tarquini as Anthony Davidson locks up. As he's there in 10th position now, looking for the final point for Minardi. More points on the board for them is definitely going to be helpful. So their team continues to march on. They are 9th and 10th for Genet and Davidson. Davidson having secured his drive for the remainder of the season, according to Alex Goldschmidt. And, well, the Super Aguri team being very generous in offering Antonio Felix da Costa for just 1 race to the team in order to fill in for Susie Wolf, who has been given a driver ban. But as it's a 1-race loan, it won't cost them any money. And for Super Aguri, they get the benefit of giving their driver a race assessment to see if he is worth having a look at for the drive in the second season, 2021. So here is Nico Hulkenberg pushing hard. Robin Frines, 3rd position in the Super Aguri. Susie Wolf pulling over, and she's got a problem. Well, that's going to put her out of the race. A water leak for the Lola, and I'm afraid that could well be her final bow in the Downforce Grand Prix World Series, certainly for now. She's going to have to miss the next race for deliberately ignoring blue flags. They'll protest. They'll obviously have a bit of an issue to say about that one, but Susie Wolf is going to pull off at exactly the same place that Paul Di Resta did. But she's pulled off on the racing line. Goodness me, Susie, that is not the place to stop a Grand Prix car, and the marshal is going to have to run out there and push the car away. Well, that could be the end of the road for Susie Wolf in 2020. Certainly it is here in the Japanese Grand Prix, and Lola failed to finish. So now there are only 13 cars running. And Hulkenberg is leading this battle for the victory. If he can fight after Alguersuari, the gap has come down again to 10.6 seconds now, with 8 laps to go. So Hulkenberg is really getting that gap down. And Alguersuari is just trying to pull away. Let's have a look at the top speed on the main straight and see what the difference is between the 2 cars. Yellow flags at the first corner though. Somebody's in trouble. It's Davidson. Davidson's out. And that's going to cost him a point. So the final point will not go to Anthony Davidson. These final couple of laps, the cars are really starting to drop by the wayside now. So Davidson's out. And I'm not sure he'll be classified as a finisher either, because although it's only 7 laps from the end, I don't think he'll be classified as a race finisher. So that'll be it. And that puts Rossi into the points. So Alex Rossi is going to be 10th position then. Hulkenberg is at 10.3 deficit to Alguersuari. Robin Frines is in 3rd place. We'll try to look at the difference in the top speeds on the next lap. But these last couple of laps, the cars really are plummeting. Just 12 remain now after the 26 that started. And only the top 10 score points. But of course, you've got to remember that these are reject F1 teams. They all had all sorts of difficulties and mechanical problems in the past, so the attrition rate was always going to be high. But Jaime Alguersuari is 10 seconds ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. Let's have a look at the speed difference, because obviously the Arrows is gaining in mechanical grip. But a top speed across the line for the race leader, Jaime Alguersuari, at 192, 193 miles an hour before having to brake for the first corner. Let's have a look back to Hülkenberg. Here he is. It's not quite as fast in a straight line, but he's got mechanical grip. 186 miles an hour is as far as the Arrows can go. But look, the gap is coming down big time. 9.8 seconds. Alguersuari is feeling the pressure. 6 laps to go. And we're on lap 62 of 67. And this race is going to be a tough one to finish off for Jaime Alguersuari. Can he hold it? Right up to the bitter end. It's not going to be easy, that is for sure. And Jaime Alguersuari is giving it absolutely everything he's got. But it's been a tough old race today. He knows that. So Alguersuari giving it the beans. Hülkenberg in second place in the Arrows. A tough race battle. A tough duel. But Hülkenberg has done everything he possibly can to close up on the Prost. It's been a drive of a champion today from Hülkenberg to try and close that gap down. That incredible advantage that the Prost has had. But Hülkenberg will not say die. He will not give up. He won't throw in the towel. He's going to give it 10 tenths. And Dave Goddard asks, he had to disappear. What happened to Delatraz? Engine failure, I'm afraid, my friend. So Delatraz ended up out of the race. Taki Nui is one place away from the points again, with only Marcus Ericsson in the Midland behind him. And the Midland looks like it is going to get at least one car to the finish this time, after we saw Diniz retire with a loose wheel earlier. But the gap between Alguersuari and Hülkenberg is just 9.3 seconds now, with 5 laps to go. Hülkenberg is still pushing in the hope that the tyres fall off the cliff for Alguersuari, but he could become another race winner in this 2020 season. Kobayashi, Lotterer, Verne, Jene, Hartley, Glock, De La Rosa, and now it could be a 9th different winner in Jaime Alguersuari, if he could just hang on to it. If any of the top 3 win, it will be a 9th different winner. Hartley is 4th and De La Rosa is 5th, with Andre Lotterer in 6th. Those 3 are the only drivers, other than Marc Genet, still running the race, that have actually won a race in this championship before. All the others are out. Timo Glock out of the race. Jean-Eric Verne, championship leader, had an engine failure. Kamui Kobayashi out of the race. So some big names gone from this one. But Nico Hülkenberg is still pushing. He will not give up. He's on the same stretch as Alguersuari now. They're both on the home straight. Alguersuari goes through, and Hülkenberg has gained a little bit more time. But it's not going to be enough, I don't think. 4 laps to go with 9 seconds the gap. I just don't think he can breach that unless Alguersuari has a major problem. I think the Spaniard has finally got his first win. He was denied the chance in Malaysia, but now he has the chance to seal the deal. It's been a very difficult race. Everyone has been pushed to their absolute limits. Hülkenberg is still pushing to the absolute limit. He is driving the race of a champion at the moment, trying to catch Jaime Alguersuari. But he's not going to get the job done the way things currently stack up. Freins has done a beautiful race, though, in 3rd position. And Brendan Hartley pulling off. Gearbox for Brendan Hartley. 4th position is gone. And that will give it to Pedro de la Rosa. So Brendan Hartley drops out with just 4 laps to go. A double non-finish for Manor. Now, I think he will still be classified as a race finisher, though, because it's only with 4 laps to go that he's retired. So he'll be classified, I think, as 4 laps down. And that will still give £50,000 of prize money to Manor from this race. But that will not be much consolation for Sam Hall. And so Brendan Hartley is out. His first retirement since round 5. And that is definitely not what he wanted to see. So Brendan Hartley He couldn't finish the first 3 races, but he had finished every race since Brno. His last retirement was Estoril. And we ride on board with an absolutely tempestuous Nico Hülkenberg just under the wheel as he tries to push. He really, really wants this win. 9 seconds is the deficit, but he's still got 3 laps to go. If he had 13 laps to go, this race would definitely be closer still, and it could go right down to the wire, but with 3 laps remaining, I just don't see it. But for Dave Goddard, he'll be delighted because Taki Inui is on course for a 10th place finish. And actually, there's going to be big points for BMS Italia, the Dallara team. 6th and 7th for Courtney and Tarquini. A double points finish is coming their way if they can hold it together. And Della Rosa, despite his throttle problem, is going to finish 4th. How about that? So, Topher Smith has come up with another fantastic fact for us as we go into lap 65. If Alguersuari does win the race, and he's 2 laps away from it, Prost will be the first team this season to have had both cars take a victory. That is quite the statistic for Tom Cairns, and that will put a real feather in his cap as the team continue to close in. And with 1st and 4th, that is a big worry for the BARs, Manners, and AGSs of this world as Prost continue to close down that gap. Alguersuari on the penultimate lap here in Fuji. Hülkenberg is 9 seconds back. Alguersuari just pumping in a quick one, hoping to get another fast lap in there to get the deficit up again. Hülkenberg is still there in 2nd place, but he's lapping Taki Inui. That's why it's holding him up a little bit. So he gave it everything he had, Nico Hülkenberg. He was not about to let a 25-second deficit after the pit stops get him down. He chipped away at it, he pushed like hell, and got the gap down to 9 seconds. But Jaime Alguersuari in the Prost is likely to get this victory sewn up very shortly indeed. But one of the drives of the race has got to go to Robin Freins in 3rd position in his 2nd race, and that will give Super Aguri a very important podium. Taki Inui needs to get out of the way for the arrows. He's not really been very helpful in doing that so far. And we saw what 2 or 3 races of consistent ignoration of the blue flags does to a particular driver. Susie Wolff was excluded from, she was banned from the Buenos Aires Grand Prix, and Super Aguri have offered to loan them Antonio Felix da Costa for 1 race in order to fill the breach and assess their driver for the season ahead. So that gives Lola a bit of a payment break. But Hülkenberg now being stuck behind Inui means that this man has a clear run to the flag. And it's exactly what they were hoping for today. Alguersuari, the Prost team, decided to go for the gamble, a 1-stop strategy to see if it would work. Della Rosa was running well. Della Rosa had this race pretty much sewn up until a throttle problem cost him dear. Takuma Sato, the home hero, had a good challenge to it on a 2-stop strategy, and who knows where he could have finished. He could have beaten Alguersuari today, the pace that Alguersuari's had in the 2nd half of the race, but the Spaniard has been where it needs to be and where it counts. And the Prost team have waited a long time for a victory. They got one in Malaysia last time out, but in round 12, they're going to be the first team this season to get 2 cars to the flag in 1st position. Jaime Alguersuari has waited even longer than Della Rosa to get the race victory, but now he's going to get there. Jaime Alguersuari wins the Fuji Grand Prix. An absolutely heroic drive from the Spaniard. And what a result. Jaime Alguersuari wins big in Japan. 2 different winners from the team. Hülkenberg comes home in 2nd. A hero's drive in 2nd position. It wasn't to be today, but he gave it everything. Taki Inui gets a point again for 40. Ericsson is the last man home in 11th place. Robin Freins gets 3rd for Super Aguri. So there's some Japanese delight at least here in Fuji. And Pedro Della Rosa, what a comeback. He kept going and finishes his way to 4th. Absolutely terrific race for the Prost team. 1st and 4th. That's a big points haul for the Prost team, and I'm fairly sure that's their first double points finish. Andre Lotterer, how does he do it? He always keeps that car in the right place at the right time. And that is a 5th place finish for Andre Lotterer. Big points for AGS today, but these guys They deserve a break, and BMS Italia are going to get it in spades. James Courtney is going to come through for 6th position. Courtney comes through in P6, and there's further joy because behind him his teammate Gabriele Tarquini, the oldest man in the field, is going to come through for 7th in front of Marc Genet, with Alex Rossi bagging 9th place. But Jaime Alguersuari is a race winner. At last, he's finally got the job done, and a race victory that he thoroughly deserves. Here is the race confirmation. Jaime Alguersuari beats Nico Hulkenberg to the victory in front of Robin Freins and Pedro de la Rosa. Andre Lotterer in 5th place. A double points finish for BMS Italia in 6th and 7th. Their best performance of the year. Marc Genet is 8th. Alex Rossi is 9th. And a point for Taki Inui in 10th position. Marcus Ericsson is 11th. Brendan Hartley is classified 12th, having lost his 4th position. But nobody else is able to bring it home after a catastrophic race for few, but an absolutely gripping race for the rest of us. And what a victory. A heroic star effort from Jaime Alguersuari. Let's have a word with our team managers down in the green room. Scott Woodwiss of Simtech will come to you first of all. A difficult race because obviously the pace in pure speed, this car has the ability, but Fuji just wasn't kind to it this weekend.
Well, first of all, Tofi, you owe me 50 quid because I knew he was going to say that.
See you later on, mate.
Yeah. Secondly, I think truthfully we were nowhere this race. I mean, we've got one of those powerful engines on the grid, and we just didn't seem to have the pace. I mean, all we could do is hold pace with the drivers that were around us. And it's a shame that both engines did let go. But then, as we've seen, the majority of failures today were engine failures of some kind. So it's a tough one, particularly with the long straight. So it's a bit bittersweet after the decent result for Stoffel in Malaysia. But I guess, again, all we can do is, that's all we can do, just regroup and go to the 3 American races, really. Well,
hopefully there'll be better luck for the team in Buenos Aires. Fantastic performance from the Simtech team to come, I'm sure. Let's have a word with Topher Smith. A 3rd position for Robin Freins, and, you couldn't really ask for better from him in the first 2 races. He's been absolutely majestic.
Oh, absolutely. He's been an absolute star in his first 2 races for the team. He's been right on a pace immediately. He's done everything that we expected of him and has come away with a podium in only his 2nd race. I mean, I couldn't be happier for him.
And of course, you've obviously got a couple of drivers knocking around hoping for a race drive, but with Susie Wolf being banned from the next race at Lola, you've decided to loan them Antonio Felix da Costa on a 1-race trial.
Well, first of all, I want to iterate that at this moment in time, there is no threat to Timo Glock's seat. His drop in pace today has been a problem due to the car setup. He hasn't been entirely comfortable because we went the wrong way on the setup. As it stands, we're only evaluating the Costa for a race seat if Lola takes us up on that offer, just to get an idea, just to see how he does, and then we have that option if we decide to go ahead and bring the Costa into a race seat next season. But as it stands, there's no threat to Glock's seat.
Okay, sounds reasonable. Well, congratulations on the podium. A fantastic performance. And now, finally, let's talk to the team manager on the top spot of the podium. Tom Cairns for the 2nd race in a row. A victory for Prost and the first team to get 2 different drivers to get a victory in the season. Disappointment for De La Rosa down in 4th, but at least he made it home. And your cars both made it in the points in the top 5.
First of all, I want to say huge congratulations to Jaime Alguersuari because he has been in fantastic form over the last few races, and I had worries for him this season in terms of his consistency in comparison to De La Rosa. But in the second half of the season, especially, he has very much raised his game. I think since the huge budget that came in before Poe, I think that was them. He very much raised his game, and I think that's boosted his confidence as well. He had a phenomenal race. That it was the perfect strategy for Jaime, and it would have been for De La Rosa had it not been for that throttle problem that had caused him to pit straight after that scheduled stop, which was a huge shame because I think we would have got 1-2 out of it. But when he came in for that throttle problem, to get the throttle problem repaired, basically just said to him, look, don't worry about it. There's still points on offer. Let's go get them. And I'm very sure that comeback through the field will have motivated him a lot. Despite that victory going away from him. But I'm very sure De La Rosa won't have any complaints from the 2 races today. I'm very sure he'll have bitten his hand off for it at the beginning. And for Jaime, well, it's a great response from the disappointment he had in Malaysia that saw him pull out. And now with that great points haul of 37 points, I mean, that boosts our points. I think we may be moving up to 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. I'll have to let Topher know about that, because I think with Mana not scoring at all, BAR not scoring, I know Arrows have got some good points in there. I think they may be above BAR in the Constructors. I don't know at this moment of time, but either way, Jake, it's a phenomenal day for the Ross team. And I wish we had another race or two add to what we've got left now to have a huge stab at the championship. But we have to make do with what we've got, and hopefully we can carry on the form heading into Buenos Aires.
Well, you never know. With 3 races to go, anything can still happen. It's game on. But congratulations to Tom Cairns. A victory for the Prost team. For the 2nd race in a row, they have got the job done. And we keep talking about BAR not scoring today. Well, they did get 1 point. Jean-Eric Verne getting the fastest lap in the very early stages of the race, and it wasn't beaten. So he does take 1 point and increases his lead in the Drivers' Championship by 1. But BAR are under some serious threat now from Arrows, from Prost, and from a few others as they head to the next race of the championship. Buenos Aires in Argentina on Saturday is going to be a critical race, as there's another upgrade run from each of the teams, and obviously a lot of racing still to come. I'm Jake Sanson. The battle will rejoin on Saturday. Group C will continue on Friday.